Dima Hasao district in Assam. Well, our top focus this hour, developments that have taken place in Canada, where Justin Trudeau has announced his resignation as the Prime Minister of Canada, as well as the leader of the Liberal Party. India and Canada relations had reached to new low when tensions arose from Pierre Trudeau's handling of Khalistanis in Canada during the 1980s. Numerous terrorists sought refuge in Canada, including Talvinder Singh Parmar, a key figure in the Khalistani movement. Despite India's requests for his extradition, the Trudeau government did not act, leading to heightened resentment. The situation escalated tragically with the bombing of Air India Flight 182, the Kanishka bombing that took place on June 23rd, 1985, which resulted in the death of 329 people on board. Most of the victims of the Kanishka bombing were Indians. Parmar, who had been protected by the Trudeau administration, was identified as the mastermind behind the attack. Joining us at this point of time is my colleague Brian Thomas. Brian, take our viewers through the details, and in fact, let's also address these visuals that we're tracking from Canada, where people are dancing and having a jolly time since Justin Trudeau tendered his resignation.
Well, Asawari, yes, definitely. You know, the visuals are here. And post Justin Trudeau, when he stepped down as the head of Liberals, and this decision also effectively ends his tenure as Canada's Prime Minister, even though, yes, he will be acting as a caretaker Prime Minister until a new leader is again, sought. And amidst this wave of internal dissent also, there have been opposition preppers, and there was a weak poll numbers ahead of a looming vote also that is slated to happen this year. So actually you can understand the Canadians' joy, where they are dancing, they are they are happy, and they are having a gala time. As even to the fact that even Trudeau has said that he's a fighter and he's not someone who backs away from a fight, particularly when a fight is as important as this one. But definitely you can see the joy in people's faces also, and even to the fact that most recently also there have been a threat also from Canada's biggest trading partner, that is the US, to levy the very 25% import tariffs also fueled a new volley of criticism. And that is one of the main reasons also why people are assuming, the experts are assuming, that he's opting out, and he has opted out when his own party people do not feel that he is a confident leader. And also it prompted one of Trudeau's most political allies also, where Chrystia Freeland also, resigned and says that it should, that he will be remembered a little more fondly than he is now as well.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Again, those visuals flashing right on your screens, which are showing the sentiment of the people in Canada. They're dancing, they've all gotten together, they're holding the Canadian flag, and there's a moment of celebration that we're currently seeing in Canada. On that note, let me now rope in Mr. Sanjay Lazar, CEO of Avilas, and also in fact, he lost his family members in the Kanishka bombing. So thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX today. Now that Justin Trudeau has tendered his resignation, do you think there was a ticking bomb over there? Was it expected? Was it on the cards?
Well, it's been on the cards for the last 6 or 8 months, because he's become so unpopular, not only in the country, but amongst his own party members. You've seen dissent brewing from last July, August, and things came to a head maybe in November, and then finally Chrystia Freeland resigned. You've had calls from the caucus, the inner caucus, who wanted him to step down, but he stoutly refused it. You had Jagmeet, of course, who threatened a no confidence, but only after his pension was cleared, obviously delaying it till February, March of this year. But there's been a huge call for him, and if you looked at the polls, the polls in December had them at fourth, with the Conservatives way ahead of everybody else. So I think the writing was very much on the wall. It's been an unpopular time for Justin Trudeau, who came into power on the crest of a popular wave, and he wanted to change everything, but he's failed on most fronts. Your fiscal deficit has shot up to 61.9 billion. You've got growth of GDP down to 1.7 this year. You had housing crisis. rents and prices of houses have gone through the roof. Inflation is through the roof. You've had an immigration nightmare. Plus, you have this entire Khalistan issue, and now Donald Trump is elected as POTUS. You've got the tariffs coming from the south of the border. So, it was inevitable. It was a, Hobson's choice, really. And mind you, he's only opted to resign. He's not resigned technically until they find a replacement for leadership. We've just heard that, we know that Chrystia Freeland will be one of them,
Yes.
probably in the race, maybe Anita Anand, and you will also have the governor of the Bank of Canada, who's also likely to throw his hat in the ring. So Mark Carney, that is. So you may have quite a few people looking for this job. I don't believe we'll see too much action till March, but he will continue to remain the Prime Minister in charge of the country till then.
Right, so absolutely. We have to talk about the Kanishka bombing. And there was a statement that was issued by Justin Trudeau on the 39th anniversary, where there was a very simple and a mere tweet that was issued, where he said, on the anniversary of the deadliest terror attack in Canadian history, we remember the lives taken by violent extremism. I want to highlight the word violent extremism over here for all our viewers. That was not violent extremism, number one. And number two, what does that say about him as a leader? What is this bitter taste that he's perhaps left in the minds of both the Canadians and people like you, who lost family members in the bombing incident?
I lost my entire family, actually, and I was on your channel from Cork, Ireland, when he made this statement, and when incidents happened at one of the memorials in Toronto. And this is plain doublespeak by Justin Trudeau. If you scale back 5, 6 years or 7 years, his statements were vastly different. Everybody knows it was a Khalistani bombing. It was an act of terrorism that was one of the worst in aviation history. And for him to downpedal it, obviously, is because he was living on the drawstrings of Khalistani support, whether it was from Jagmeet or whether within his party or the NDP. So obviously he was soft on the Khalistani terrorism angle, and he wanted to soft pedal the issue. That was also one of the problems between his father and India and Mrs. Gandhi at that time. It's also with Nijjar and company, who India was seeking extradition of. There's also Arsh Dalla, who's recently come out. There's so many. There's Pannoon. So I think he created an atmosphere of safe haven for terrorism or let's say separatism in his country and under his government, which was unprecedented before in the history of Canada, really.
Right, so absolutely. Justin Trudeau, there's a large opinion over here that Justin Trudeau has put his party to international shame with the kind of things that have been taking place, whether it's the economic crisis that we're talking about, people sleeping on the streets. We're talking, of course, about the Kanishka bombing as well. Do you think the new government, when it comes into power, do you think they will perhaps look into the Kanishka bombing and justice will perhaps be served?
Well, to answer your point, the first thing will be, prior to an election, there'll be a new leader in the Liberal Party. Okay, we don't see too much change in their direction. They're going into an election which they're most likely going to lose. We do believe that the Conservatives will come to power. Pierre Poilievre, he might be a little more pragmatic vis-a-vis India-Canadian relations go, and tariffs and taxes and freebies and immigration. But make no mistake, I do not believe that Canada is going to go 180 degrees on its direction as far as the Khalistan question goes, because they have become very deep-seated within the Canadian ecosystem, political ecosystem, whether it's the administrative ecosystem. You will find there are high-ranking supporters of this movement, even in the Conservative Party. So India will walk a tightrope with them. But I do believe, very importantly, we've all neglected to notice one very important fact, which is that despite the worst relations between India and Canada that we've seen in the last 2 years, which goes back 7-8 decades, we're still at $8 billion trade with Canada. We're importing $8.9 billion of their goods and exporting to them. So trade has not been affected, and India is a good, large partner, trading partner with Canada, and I believe they'd want to keep that alive. There's a lot of Canadian investment in India, so there may be a softening of angle, a more professional, diplomatic way of handling things. I don't believe there's anything more to open up in the Kanishka bombing, except if we get a deathbed confession from one of the two perpetrators who got away, the last time in the mistrial that happened. That's about it I can see. I know there have been calls from, Sukh Dhaliwal and a few other MPs in Canada who've said, we want to reopen the investigation, reopen the criminal trial. People are dead. They have killed, their terrorists have killed witnesses. They've, deleted, CSIS has deleted hours of recordings of the conspiracy. How do you get justice? You won't. I mean, I'm resigned to the fact that unless there is a deathbed confession by somebody, there's never going to be justice.
Right, sir, absolutely. With that, I'd like to thank you for joining us on the broadcast, sharing your perspectives and insights with our viewers. We're going to leave it there for the time being, and we're going to shift our focus to some more news coming in. But before we move on to that, again, viewers, those visuals on your screens, I'm going to request my PCR to go back to the visuals that we were looking at, because well, a Prime Minister has said that he's going to be resigning, and look at the situation over there. People are dancing. I'm going to request my crew to quickly show us the shots from Canada where you see people dancing. They've taken to the streets, they've gone to different eateries, all gotten together, and there's a celebration at this point of time. All right, we're going to continue to track more developments. We leave it there and shift our focus to some more news coming in, where a strong earthquake shook a mountainous region in Western China.